I have been thinking so much about the meaning of art, the concept of dressing oneself and owning what is inside and expressing in a way that is true to self. I've been thinking a lot about loving the body that you have, the taking care of the body that you have. I had a spinal cord injury when I was 20, and I am still very, very much in the middle of trying to manage that. I have found that it is wildly important for me to be able to wake up in the morning and see someone who is not looking just terrible by my own personal aesthetic and visual messaging. It really is important to me that I wake up and look like I'm capable of doing the day. How I visually see myself is exceptionally important. That is the strongest memo that I can give myself, and that is the best self-care that I can actually perform for myself, that I'm giving myself visual cues that I am okay and that I can continue. And that has actually been very hard for me, because that means self-care is not always about spending money, but when it comes to clothing, hair, makeup, skin, the whole thing, yeah, that's money. That's just, it adds up, and it's privileged. I mean, this whole conversation is about me dealing with the fact that I actually do have the privilege finally to genuinely do the things that I think that I have always known was exceptionally important to me. And that those were the motivators. Those were the things that kept me good and okay. And you see, that's the problem with one size fit all self-care. Self-care is exceptionally personal. And you have to figure out how to talk to yourself through your actions and through your interior voice, and how you are placing things in your life, as to, you have to actually really know how to communicate with yourself, the whole thing. I have come to realize that it's not just the sewing. The sewing skill is the power to do exactly what it is that I want, but it's not just about my clothing, it's also my environment. And it's about my kids' environment, because I am very, very, very responsible for my children's environment and their ability to develop the interior voice and expressivity that allows them to then perform their own self-care when they become an adult, because I have to provide their self-care while they're a kid, and then help them develop that self-care so that I've parented well, that they launch with the ability to self-care, which includes ability to make money, ability to keep a roof over your head, ability to feed yourself, ability to express yourself, have hobbies, have time of your own, not sell your soul to a company, etc., etc. So for me, it's really important that I actually also model these concepts, because what I do very much matters in the eyes of my children. So for my daughter's 11th birthday, she realized that her original choice was go shopping with mom. And I love that choice. She's wonderful to shop with. But somewhere in there, we were talking, and right before we went out, she actually sort of realized, wait. Mom, my room is still looking like Pinkie Pie 3-year-old me. What is really important to me is that my room changes. So we talked about it, and in the end, she got this dark forest, mushroom cottage fairy vibe, and everyone in the house agrees that her room is the most cohesive, lovely room to now be in. And it now reflects the ability to do multiple projects. All of the things that she really wants to have her hands on are going to be the things that when she walks into the room, that it's going to be right there. It's going to be in your face, out of sight, out of mind. All of her supplies have appropriate areas to exist where it's not just this flood. So that's the baseline concept that I'm working with, of making sure that everyone in this house has the ability to produce art, to produce creativity, to produce the environment that is important to being complete and whole. I started the Nora show because I was exceptionally bored after quarantine. My family needed to take it exceptionally serious, and we did. And the end result was a wild shift in my existence, my headspace, and needs. I had a World War II reenactment group, WAC group, which was so cool. But that at the beginning of everything, so like September of 2019. And then by the end of this, by now, that group fizzled. It didn't survive, like a lot of clubs didn't. But when I started the sewing thing, I was intending on sewing a purely 1940s wardrobe for myself, and then because that would have gone with the reenacting. But that ended up being not entirely. Then somewhere in there I was like, wait a minute, I should sew something from the 1920s, because I wanted to rewind a little bit and simplify some of the sewing to allow myself to gain some sewing skills. So those sewing skills have improved like a lot. And that's really, really exciting, because the entire point of this is that I knew how to sew, but I didn't entirely know how to sew. I didn't have a huge amount of confidence, and I certainly didn't know how to draft patterns, and I certainly didn't know what I was doing there. But now is different. Now I seem to actually have the ability to do some stuff. And I don't think that I've done a very good job of really representing my gains over the last 2 years, which is very strange to me, because it's an obvious documentation of skill that I have been doing, but I don't know that it's actually shown. It almost looks like I knew what I was doing from the start, which I really didn't. And that was a lot of, okay, this is my first time I'm doing this. Anyway, so, because I knew how to like get out a machine, sew and change things. I knew where to look for problems. I knew what to like avoid, but I didn't have excessive amounts of hours of experience that I do now. And I also have far more patience than I ever did before, and a better understanding of how much time it actually takes to deal with the pattern, to deal with the material, to put those two together, to cut out the pattern. Like, I now know that it takes a day for me to cut out a pattern normally. It is most likely going to take a full day and a half to draft out a pattern, depending on the complexity, obviously. I have also learned that I need to have things like my zipper sample, which is somewhere back there. Basically, it is a sample of how I want to construct zippers every single time, and it's just in a square. It's not attached to anything. It's just a sample, and I'm going to put that up on my board, and that's just going to stay there, because I can't remember things like that. But if I see it, it's a quick reminder, and I'm like, okay, yeah, right, left, right, because I have problems with left, right. I have a tendency to do that. And that's not a problem. That's not a thing against me. It's just something that I have to accommodate. So all of this started for me because I joined a reenactment group. And then I decided to document my adventures in sewing or writing or makeup or something, because if you look at like my original videos, there was like the icons that would pop up, and it was all over the place because I wasn't entirely sure what niche I would go into. Sewing wasn't necessarily going to be the focal point of this show. So my 1940s group doesn't exist anymore. But you know what does? There's a Victorian society that is local to me and does monthly events. So obviously I had to look at the Victorian era and go, that one, I love that one. So I now have an 1880s late bustle era corset, bustle, back bustle, chemise, drawers, the whole 9-bit. And I'm gonna sew a corset, and I'm gonna sew bustles. And I don't know where I'm gonna put the bustles because my house is incredibly tiny. Okay, so this is gonna be a wild shift. When I started sewing 3 years ago on this journey specifically, I swore I'd never sew a corset, that I didn't have the skills for it, and I didn't, that I didn't have the patience for it, and I didn't, that I wouldn't even know where to begin. I do now. And that realization is powerful, that I actually have skill built up to that, and I actually feel really comfortable. In fact, what I'm thinking is I have a pretty nice, heavy, thick silk, white silk that I think that I should dye and then put that as the cover over the actual structured part of the corset, so fashion fabric over it. I think I could do that, and then it would be a custom dyed corset. I know that's done. I think I need to double check to make sure that the fabric that I'm thinking of would be appropriate. It might be perfect, it might not be. This is something that, yet again, I don't entirely know what I'm doing. Okay, summary, goals. I have a couple of goals that I have. In no particular order, because all of these sort of are like this. They all sort of intermix. I want to sew the corset, the bustle, all of the underpinnings, and then a 100% silk taffeta ball gown, 1880s bustle era, back bustle, by September, because there's an event that I want to go to and it sounds like fun. And that is actually the entire point of all of this. I am here to create my own fantasy world of fun, because why not? Why not? So that's the first one. The second one is that I think that a tea gown or a walking dress, something that is more of a daytime thing, would also be a good idea, because I know those events will happen with this group. That would cover me very, very nicely. And parasol, hat, all of it. Okay, so that's one project and skill set there, because that's a successful corset. Okay, number 2, I have successfully tested out multiple tests, a skirt sloper that currently fits me, and it is tight and it is good and it's comfortable, and I have created 3 wool skirts with kick pleat and hidden zipper, and I'm just so proud. I am very, very proud of the fit. I am very proud of this sloper, and I was able to draft me 2D flat without any directions. I actually was able to immediately do that, and it wasn't a problem. I knew exactly what I was doing, and that I did not have that ability a year ago. So this is really cool. So now that I have redrafted this, and it is the best that it has ever been. So if you've ever watched any of the previous videos, yeah, the fit's not perfect. You're correct. I'm working on that. Okay, because I have really crazy high standards that I'm working for. I'm looking for perfection. Okay, I'm looking for idiotic levels of couture, tailoring skills, and I'm not done yet. Okay, so the next thing I'll work on is a really, really good fitting bodice sloper. I really need to nail this one down, because if I want to work on anything from the 1950s that's fitted, and if I want to work on the bias for the 1930s, that bodice needs to get cleaned up like nobody's business. I consider the bodice sloper that I was using for the 1920s to be sloppy in many regards. Moving on, other goals that I have. I think that I would like to understand the fashion industry more. I don't think I understand it at all. I don't think that I understand any part of it, actually, or how any of it gets done. Like, none of it. I don't understand the component of it. Why would I? I'm a political science major with 1 semester of law school who became a middle school science teacher. Trust me, this isn't my background. Like, I've never had a sewing class or a drafting class. I think I had an art appreciation class like 20 years ago. I would like to also I've got 3 books on tailoring, like actual tailoring methods. I want to start reading them and start incorporating that into what I'm doing here. I want to continue to draft my own patterns. I would like to start drafting some things of my own creation. And I think I'm really well set up for that, because Haslam has been an absolutely fantastic background for teaching you how to manipulate a pattern. I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper on how to actually move darts. I want to be able to also start doing some creative stuff with the bodice, because I know that you can do a lot. You can start doing a lot of, I want to do some pattern manipulation and maybe draft my own not maybe, I do want to draft a couple of my own creations, some things that I'm deeply inspired by. And so anything that I do, we can pretty much guarantee that it'll be obviously inspired by something between the 1920s and 1960s. Apparel making and fashion design. Apparently this is like the kind of book that you would end up in buying textbook wise if you actually went to school. And I think that's actually something that I would like to do. I want to look up, like, give me a course syllabus and all the recommended books, videos, or whatever. If I were pretending I was going to fashion design school, what do I need to actually know? Give me some books, give me some resources. I'm really good at teaching myself stuff. I don't need to go to college. I don't need to go back. I've got enough transcripts. I've put enough of my money into higher education. I'm good. I'll teach myself now. Oh, this shot was so much better than I thought it was going to be. Don't move, Watson. Oh, come on, you're being so cute. Something else that I have figured out in the last couple of years. I have zero ability to stay in vintage 24/7 all the way through an entire month. There is always a point where I need very flexible, very loose clothing that is like this, without the makeup, just the hair back, and that I get to focus in on something else. There are points where I have lost interest in this expression and then I need to go more in, and then usually that's where I'm setting up for a project. I lose interest in that completely, and I have realized that that's part of my personal creative process. Like this is absolutely something that it's a cycle, and it's a healthy cycle, and it also lets me know exactly where I'm at. So like right now, I'm not wearing makeup. I'm in the most comfortable cashmere sweater that's so soft on my skin, and it's not itchy at all, and it's warm, and it's breathable, and it's just, oh, it's so lovely. And I've got comfortable shoes on and everything else. So this is the part that I don't normally film. This is the point where I'm setting up for my next project. I am cleaning up all of my other stuff from before. I am doing the laundry of the house. I'm doing some batch meal cooking. I'm taking care of things, you know, and it's not, wow, are you cute? Just lick that paw. Oh, clean your nose. That's right. Clean your little snout. So there's always a point where I am very, very, very casual. And that is the point where some of the things that I'm getting offers, like product offers, that applies to that point in my existence, but I haven't exactly been like filming. And I have a box of shoe over there, and I really, really like it, but it's not at all vintage. It'll never go with a vintage outfit, but I definitely want the shoe because I really, 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 really like shoes like this. So I'm going to be expanding out this channel to reflect the more open about other parts of my existence and the creative process that gets me. He's so darn cute. He should be center camera. Okay. I want to be more open about the documenting of the creative process that I am doing to do what I am doing, because I'm really starting to see it in a different light than where I started the filming 2 years ago. And I've been expressing, okay, I'm getting burnt out. This isn't working. The filming schedule's not working. What am I doing here? And this is very, very much part of an internal process, recognizing what it is that I actually want to be doing, how I'm doing it, and what other parts of my life actually need a lot of attention. So everyone, drink your water, take care of yourself, and I will see you next time. This is my attempt at doing a generalized update of what is going on. because I've got a ton of film. I never got around to editing it. And then I painted my daughter's room and did a major overhaul on everything. And it's still not done, which I'm gonna have to go up there and get things up on the wall, where I'm like 1 day away from being genuinely done. And she is thrilled with me. I get Mom of the Year. So that is what I was going for. All right. And then, yeah, so and then I was like, I need to get a video up. So this is it. Update.